Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, and welcome to The Fool's Apprentice. Today, we are doing our one card study. I have Eleanor, all the way from, was it Kansas City? Is that correct?
St. Louis.
St. Louis. Oh, that was my second guess. Okay, I'm the worst, and she just told me. I'm horrible with even short-term memory. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been reading for tarot for about 7 years. I'm mostly an intuitive reader, not as much of a scholar. I have a Facebook page. It's facebook.pink Pink Pearl Tarot, and then I have my YouTube channel, which is Pink Pearl Tarot on YouTube.
Okay, and I'll link those below
Okay, cool.
so everybody can find you. So how are you doing this morning?
I'm awesome. It's my birthday today. I'm
Happy
spending it with
birthday.
Benny of the Fool's Apprentice.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for spending your birthday with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, the Justice card. I have the Neil Rider-Waite-Smith. Which one do you have?
I think it doesn't have any special titles. It's like the normal one.
Let me see. Let me see the back. Let me see the back of your card.
Oh, wait.
Okay, people will be able to recognize which one that is based on the back, because we have a lot of different clones, and they all have like different names, like the Centennial,
Okay.
Pamela Coleman Smith. So people will recognize which one that is.
Mhm.
Mine's the Neo Rider. I love this one. This one's my favorite. So tell me, what comes up for you when the Justice comes out for you?
Okay, so to me, it is a card of absolute truth, which is like it's objective. It's the facts that are beyond egoic interpretation, and they cannot be manipulated. So the scales to me are kind of talk about the interconnectedness of all things and the equal and opposite reactions to actions and how everything is affected by everything. Air signs, clarity, Libra, consequences, cause and effect. That sword, it cuts away the superfluous. It cuts opinion from fact. That 11 is unity, and it's also the center of the major arcana. The Wheel of Fortune and the Justice card are actually in the middle, so everything is kind of to the balanced on either side of it. Yeah, it's for me, it's a card that asks us to decenter ourselves, because I think we can sometimes make the mistake of putting ourselves at the fulcrum of those scales and that everything's going to work out in our favor and like for me. But it's more like, let's see. The power you have with the Justice card is when you're working and operating in acceptance of what is in the absolute sense.
Okay.
Not what the ego thinks should be, and that like the ego is what, yeah. I don't know if I was talking pretty fast there, but
It's okay. It's okay.
I find this figure intimidating to me.
Do you? Why do you find
The
it
aloof
intimidating?
figure in the card. I feel it almost reprimands us for it asks us to decenter ourselves and to humble ourselves. It doesn't reassure me that something's going to go my way, just that the equation will be balanced out. And so I don't see fairness, I see objectivity, because I feel fairness is kind of more like what I would like things to be. So like if a glass falls on concrete, it's going to shatter. And it's like, is that fair? In the grand scheme of things, I guess. Is it comfortable all the time? No. So maybe that's why I find this kind of figure a little bit intimidating.
Okay. Well, for me, this card really is one of the cards in the tarot deck where I take extremely seriously. It's a card that's making you really think critically about the decisions that you have made, are going to make you, if you have a question about what I should do, really forces you to look at the pros and cons of everything, realizing that your decision has consequences. And one of the interesting things about the word consequence, people have a negative connotation to it. Actually, consequences is basically an outcome. So the outcome could be positive, it could be negative. I believe this card deals. I do think it deals with fairness, with looking at a situation and deciding what's the right thing to do, what's the next right thing. Um, I do believe there is a sense of karma in this because the decisions that you make,
Absolutely.
the decisions of the past have an effect on the consequences today. So, for example, if you commit a crime 10 years ago and you found out today, there's a consequence. If you make a medical decision 5 years ago or not make a medical decision 5 years ago, there is going to be a consequence today. So every decision has an outcome. So I think karma comes with that. Um, I do believe, like, when the justice card comes out, um, it is about being objective, not allowing your feelings to come in. I don't know where I read it, but it's this idea of like empathy has no place when the justice card comes out. And because sometimes you want to give grace to somebody, but because of the situation, like let's say if you're in the courtroom, unfortunately, guilt or not guilty, there is no place for empathy and compassion. That comes when it comes to sentencing if you're found guilty. So that's how I generally see the justice card. It's one of those cards where it makes me pause. It's making me really think about what I need to do next. What about any of the symbols mean anything for you?
Well, I think I had mentioned kind of like the sword cutting, like we talk about empathy. It's talking about all those ways that we interpret the facts from our perspective, from the absolute facts. So that's what that sword says to me. And also the scales, that's where I agree with you on the karma aspect, that there will always be a consequence, which is to say a reaction, an outcome, every action and a reaction. So consequences, to detach that word from when I got in trouble as a kid, it just means what happens when a thing happens.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do think there's that
so yeah, that's
I do think there's that nuance on like justice for somebody who's a kid, an adolescent, a young adult, an older adult. I think those consequences could be different. There's that nuance to it. The sword for me,
yeah.
um, I've heard so many different things about the sword, but the one that really stands out for me is that it's a double-edged sword. It's like every decision has a different side, and once
Mhm.
you decide to use the sword, it's final. There's a final decision, and that's what you have to live by. Um, the scales really just deals with balance, making sure that you're just. For me, it's that actually talks about weighing all things out. So, like, if you have to make a decision, think, oh, if you have a situation, is a better way of putting it. You have one situation. It's really about thinking about all the decisions that you can make for that decision. Let's say you have 5 different decisions. Well, then you have to play each one out and find what's
Mhm.
correct for you. And it's for me, that's the scales, finding that balance between all of the decisions you make to find the right outcome for you. Anything else about the
That's
justice card?
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to say that because the way you're interpreting those scales, that's how I think of the Seven of Cups, actually.
Oh, okay, okay. Yes, the seven. I think the Seven of Cups does fit that perspective, because it's a choice. But here it's about justice.
Yeah,
There is a right and there is a wrong way to make a decision.
yeah.
Plain.
Yeah, so those scales for me are kind of like more like a mathematical equation or like a physics equation. So it's the way things must work out by law. But I don't think of the justice card so much where it comes to man's law. I've kind of shifted more of those things to the Hierophant because that's where man has created order and systems to explain our experience, where the justice to me is a little bit colder than that, a little bit more distant than that, and more totally unable to be manipulated. Like to me, maybe this is like a personal thing where I see the justice system that we have can be manipulated by money and influence and power, and so it is not necessarily that objective. Whereas to me, science and math are representations of absolute objectivity.
That is interesting because I see the Hierophant as spiritual law. I see justice as societal law. But you just said something.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this whole mathematical thing that you talked about, I find that interesting. So, wow, okay, I'm gonna have to think about that because. And so, what is it that you find interesting between the Hierophant spiritual law and societal law with justice here?
The ability of it's the lens of it being through man's eyes. So
Okay.
to me, the Hierophant does kind of represent there being a gatekeeper between us and our spirituality, or at least a way of it's an it to me it's man's organization of things. So it's how we make sense. It's the stories that we told since the beginning of time to explain our existence and interpret them to create society and to create social laws. So to me, that's man-made organization
Yeah,
versus
and I
universal cosmic order that's out of our control. And that's why I love how the Hanged Man comes after it, because it's like this realization that you absolutely must submit to it. There's nothing you can do to finagle cosmic order. It puts you in your place in the universe, kind of, and you have to take yourself out of the center of that equation, and that things will always work out and balance according to that law, not according to what I want. So that's why I'm a little weird about the word fairness, because when I say I want things to be fair to me, what it really means is I want grace. And you had said that earlier, that that's not so much what's involved in here is grace to any one person, but just
yeah.
like the absolute, this is how it balances out. This is how order is restored in the universe.
And I love that we have a different perspective on the card because I suspect there are going to be other people that are watching who are going to side with your perspective, my perspective, or will have a completely different perspective. And I think that's what I love about the tarot is that it speaks to you the way it speaks to you. And I think one of the important things about the tarot and individual cards is that your meaning and your definitions um, are consistent so that your readings are consistent. Now, as time goes on,
Right.
my understanding of the Justice card has changed. So how I view the Justice card has changed. But as it's changed, it stays consistent in how I read the card with my new understanding of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Mine has changed from when I first started and coming at it from a study standpoint and scholarly and trying to memorize the meanings, and then starting to kind of shift and evolve what I believe based on learning more of the context and the flow of the major arcana, and how, I came to kind of my understanding of it from the wheel, where that's kind of it's chaos if you're on the edge of it, and then it calls you into the center where there is calm, I guess, in the middle of it. And what you're doing there is, so the chaos is if you're attached to the rim of that wheel, which is looking at all of the cosmic interlocking cycles from too small of a lens. And when you come into the center, you can actually see that the Earth is rotating around the sun, which is on a spiral, and you can zoom out and you see the absolute Swiss wash that is the cosmic cycles. And there is not actually chaos, it's actually order. And then, like I said, after that, then is the Hanged Man, and you realize your power. So it takes away your power in that moment, that you can't manipulate it, but then you can regain your power in that when you work with the laws of nature and physics and the laws of the cosmic justice and cosmic order, that's where your power becomes, where you can make those choices that will have the outcome that you want karmically.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And okay. So anything else about the Justice card that you want to share?
I don't think so. I think that's
Okay.
everything I wrote
So,
down, just not how I wrote it.
so this is my favorite part actually coming up. What's your favorite Justice card?
Okay, so this is the one I chose. Let's see, I'm trying to get into the camera. This is the one I chose artistically, get the
Okay.
glare out of it there.
It's okay. And what
I
card
like it.
is that from?
This is from Mystic Mondays,
Okay.
I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
So what is it about
So
this
I
card?
like the bold color.
The book club. Okay.
Yeah, I like the simplicity, the bold colors, and to me, since I'm trying to get it there, because I read intuitively and I don't like to be so locked into what the image is showing. I just like a
Mm,
prompt to open up the channel.
got
And
it.
so I prefer a more minimal deck. And in this card, the sword has already done the work of cutting out everything that's superfluous and irrelevant, and we're
Uh,
just to the meat and potatoes of balancing things out.
I love that perspective. I love the idea of the sword cutting all the stuff that clutters a decision. It's like cutting through the fog of things so you can see things.
Exactly.
I like that idea of the sword. That's something that I will take with me for sure. Well, mine comes from James Eads Green Glyphs Tarot. Do you know this deck? Do you know that
I
deck?
don't.
Okay, it's a wonderful deck. And so this is a justice card. I just think it's so adorable.
No. Hey, Benny, I'm going to hang up and try to reconnect because it's I don't see it.
Okay, okay. Okay, there you are.
Yeah, you had your the image had frozen, so I couldn't see your card.
Okay, so we'll start with me introducing it. I'll edit this out. So mine is the Green Glyphs Tarot. And you said you've never seen this one before, is that correct?
That's great. I haven't.
Okay, James Ead has like Oracle deck. I mean, it's really, really nice. And it's a mini deck, so you can see the size difference.
Mhm.
And what I really like about this card, it's its simplicity. I love the colors. For me, this particular card really talks about making, taking the higher road, making the right decision, because of it's an angel flying through the sky. It's just living up to our better selves, our higher self. And so that's what I really, really, really like about this card. And it has everything that I need. It has the two main things, the sword and the scales, which really just easily defines it as the justice card.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it.
It is
That's
adorable.
cool.
Now, we do have some time. Now, you do have a card, a justice card that kind of changed your perspective of justice.
Yeah, I kind of already talked about how it had shifted, but I will share the card of
Okay,
one of
sure.
that at least
Oh,
represents it. This is from the Houseplant Tarot,
wow.
and
Okay.
it kind of represents those natural laws that
Oh,
if you water and sun your plant, it'll grow, and if you don't, it won't. You know,
yeah.
cause and effect. That is kind of, it doesn't care what you think. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
it's nature, which I love.
Oh, I think that is a very cool card. It's not my aesthetic, and at first I was like, I don't see it, but then I saw the balance and I saw the sword in the middle, you know. But yeah, that makes complete sense to me now. You know, a year and a half ago, you would have showed me that card, I would have had no clue of what it was, uh, which is exciting for me because now I can actually see it.
Yeah. I have a bonus one. This is for, I have the Science Tarot too, which is this is the law of conservation of energy. So
Okay.
that one also fits in there. Things that once something is lost, something will be gained on the other side of the scale. It must by law be balanced out.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that makes
So I
sense.
like, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And on your birthday. Oh, I hope you have a wonderful birthday.
Thank you, Benny. It was fun, and I'll be watching all the fun stuff you have coming up. I'm excited for all your projects you've talked about.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh my God. It is a lot. There's a lot going on. But I'm bound and determined to get it all done, but it will happen on its own time.
Hmm.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Benny. This is The Fool's Apprentice, and until next time, have a great day. Bye, guys.